Snout Spout, heroic water-blasting firefighter, was released on November 2011 in the Masters of the Universe Classics line. Behold Snout Spout in his standard Masters of the Universe Classics package. Yeah. So, Snout Spout. And let's start with history of Snout Spout. So, in 1980s there was, well, a figure release of Snout Spout. That much I'm sure, because I had that figure. It was second hand. It was bought second hand, like my Leech, and I never liked Snout Spout or my Leech as much as my other Masters of the Universe figures. It didn't have any accessories, but action feature was intact, though I used it so much that it wasn't working in the end. But when I got it, it did work. I'm not sure if Snout Spout was in any mini comics, because, like you probably know, those mini comics are not my, well, what I'm good at, and I don't know much of those. But I do know that Snout Spout was in standard size comics, at least on Star Comics, at least one issue of Star Comics. I think it was Snakes Alive one, where Snout Spout and Rio Blast were in. Now that I think, there probably was even more of those where Snout Spout was in, but at least that one. Then he was in Filmation animated series, though he was not in He-Man series, but She-Ra, Princess of Power series. My first cartoon thing where I saw Snout Spout was He-Man and She-Ra, a Christmas special. But, well, while Snout Spout was in it, he didn't have any speaking role. He just was in it. Well, he did put a star on top of the Christmas tree. But there was one She-Ra episode where Snout Spout did have a speaking role. I don't remember if there was any others, but this one I do remember, because it was one of those very few She-Ra episodes I had on VHS as a child, and that one episode was from She-Ra season 2, and episode was called Day of Flowers. Yeah, Snout Spout helped Adam and Adora fight monstroids. Yeah. And then from the 1980s cartoon we have to rewind, well, fast forward actually, to early 2000s, where Snout Spout had a Staction release. I think it was only Staction, not action figure. He was not in Mike Young Productions animated series, unless I'm forgetting something, but I think he never made it to that series. And no idea if Snout Spout was part of early 2000s comics, because I really have no experience about those. Yeah, so that's a little bit history, and well, so now we can take a look at Snout Spout in his package. And this is how Snout Spout looks inside the package. And on the back side, on the card back, there's a selection of already released figures. And all of these are heroic warriors. And like this toy line calls them, all are masters of the universe. But at least, while I don't like to call heroic warriors masters of the universe, heroic warriors they are anyway. And then there's of course a new bio for Snout Spout. Well, I don't know how new this is. There are some elements from the 1980s. And then there is MagicCollector.com logo and some other things you probably know by heart at this point. So let's do like this and put this package back, and let's go to opened figure portion of this review. Okay, and here it is, Snout Spout out of his box, package, whatever. And like always, let's start with his articulation. And first we have wrist, then elbow, bicep, shoulder, head, and this ab crunch feature is on my so stuck that it doesn't move at all. I don't think it's that stuck on all Snout Spouts, and it definitely is not meant to be, but on mine it doesn't move, so I'm not going to try and move it. Then waist, wrist, and then legs go like this and like this, and also like this. Then the knee, and boot, and stuck ankle, mostly because of this new current ankle type with no visible pegs, which makes these ankles, well, pretty tight and stuck, unlike the older one which had the visible peg and ankles were very loose sometimes. I prefer this over that. And boots have some nice details, some wrinkles and such, though colors are matte black, nothing special there. Then these standard male legs, they are, well, orange with some shading, a little bit more here and here. Then on the crotch area, the loincloth is very soft and flexible. It's very rubbery, like you saw earlier. And because it's so rubbery, the paint rubs off of it very easily. When these things were straight after the package, actually even in the package these were visible, but some other paint rubs have happened after taking figure out of the package. Then the upper torso, most of the arms and so on are orange with some shading, a little bit more on the arms than on this torso part on itself. And then from the elbow hinge down, these gloves are completely new, or at least were new for Snout Spout. They are purple with some dark shading, not much, but at least a little bit. Not sure if it shows there on your side of the screen, but there is a little bit. And then, hello head. Yeah, those who know Snout Spout figure knows that there is something about the head that needs to be mentioned and talked about. But first, let's go these ears, which have hinges, which allows a little bit movement back and forth, not much, but a little bit. And otherwise the head looks this nice robotic cyborg-ish, and has this kind of circuitry things going on. And to see the eyes, to have a good look of the eyes, it needs to be, well, the figure needs to be turned a little bit so the shadows don't overcome the eyes. Okay, and as for the materials, these ears are sturdy, hard plastic. Well, so is the head on itself otherwise, but this head is a little bit softer or gummier kind of plastic than the ears. This part of the head is same material than most of the figure heads, but these ears are a little bit different material. And then there's the trunk, which is not plastic at all. It's blue foam. Well, obviously you can see it painted, but well, down or below it, well, there's blue foam. And inside the blue foam there is a metal wire. Yes. And what was Metal's intention? It was that this trunk would be articulated, and you could move this trunk and articulate it. Well, didn't work that well. Well, some Snout Spout have a trunk that can move and they can be articulated. Yeah. Well, mine can't be because this foam has hardened so that you can't really move this trunk, which is actually good considering. But the articulation comes with a problem, because the paint and the foam and the wire inside aren't a very compatible combination. There are side effects on those, something that Metal didn't foresee, and the combination effect of those three things are making some of these trunks very brittle, and even so brittle that they are breaking by themselves. Some Snout Spouts have been breaking just standing like this on the shelf without ever touching on the trunk. There have been reports them breaking and falling off. So there is side effects. My trunk, like I said, is hardened, it really doesn't move, and if I did move it, it probably would break because of the foam probably has become so brittle. But apart from that, mine seems to be fine, so I'm good with that. Maybe I kind of lucked out like I did with goddess figure, where my crotch on the goddess has not exploded and my trunk on Snout Spout is still intact. But yeah, there's this rotting trunk syndrome, like some call it, with Snout Spout. Okay, but that's the figure itself, so it's time to accessorize it. And first, let's take the harness out. And the harness is like this, silver with some black and grey. And let's put it on. And it's very nice that you can pull it on without taking the head off, because this head is kind of, well, at least on mine, it's very stuck, and you have to use a little bit force to get it off. And because of that force that needs to be applied, some of that force goes to the trunk down here, and on worst case scenario it might even cause some breakage, so I'm very happy about that. And there's also the second part of the harness, this jetpack looking backpack. Some nice details, even though it's completely just this matte red. Some details like this here comes from the vintage figure. This is the part where you would put the water, well, and then you would squirt this figure. Of course, there's no action features with this, and vintage figure, on vintage figure there wasn't a separate backpack. It was well, it was part of the figure itself, but it's nice homage to the vintage figure, so yay. And it's much better and not that annoying than the, for example, the Hurricane Hodak's big red dial on the back. And it's put on like this, down pegs first and then the up pegs goes like this, and the backpack is on. And then some more accessories. There's the axe, very plain looking axe, comes from the vintage figure. Ooh, China, not a surprise. And then there's this thing here on the bottom, which was on the vintage too. Well, probably, I think, while I had the vintage Snout Spout, I didn't have any accessories for him because it was second hand, so I never knew what accessories it came with, but I think this was the accessory it had. And the purpose of this is that you can use this to kind of use with the articulation of trunk and pose it a little bit more and so on. Obviously, like I just told, it's not advisable to actually use the articulation on the trunk if it's still intact. I mean the articulation and or trunk, so that's kind of useless, but the axe is still usable. Then the other part of the figure, well, the accessory, I mean, because it's a firefighter figure, firefighter of Eternia kind of character, which is why there's axe, because that's firefighter's accessory. There's also Jaws of Life, which is one very good thing that firefighters actually have. Probably many people have been saved from the car wrecks because of this kind of thing. Jaws of Life. Yeah, so the actual real firefighters have this kind of gizmo that they use, though I think those are a little bit sturdier and heavier kind of things, and probably works with some kind of compressed air or something. But anyway, it's a nice looking accessory. It's articulated, there's no springs or anything, but both of these arms or prongs or whatever they are moving by themselves. Mine are these prongs aren't, well, they are a little bit on different, they are not completely on the same level, but I don't care. And let's put this on, and this, and now we have a completely accessorized snout spout. Now stay there. This surface which is under snout spout, it's a cardboard box, so it's not the most, well, at least not the best surfaces, but so it seems to be standing on there. Okay, and what I think about this figure, apart from some of the paint things on mine, I personally don't have any real problems or defects with this figure, and my trunk is whole and complete. Obviously I haven't really moved it or tried to articulate it or anything like that, because when I took the figure out of the package, the trunk problem was already known, even though although my trunk was kind of hard already at that point, so it could have been done anyway. Personally, I'd prefer that they had made this trunk out of plastic, and it doesn't require any articulation in my opinion, and that would have actually prevented all the problems with snout spout. I know that Metal's intentions were good, and they wanted to give a figure something extra with the articulation of the trunk, but yeah, but still I would have preferred plastic. Well, the points for this figure, I'll give 3 out of 5. The figure just isn't one of my favorites, never has been, never will. it's probably something kind of this otherwise human body with this elephant head. I don't know, it just doesn't work. Or maybe it's the orange color, I don't know. Or the fact that I didn't love that much my vintage snout spout because it was second hand, and so on and so on. But there's nothing really wrong about this figure on itself, at least on my opinion. And I recommend this figure to all friends of Masters of the Universe Classics line and the fans of this character. Obviously be careful with the trunk, but otherwise it's a nice figure to have. Obviously if you don't have it, your only choices are third parties from other fans, resellers and such. Figure is sold out from MOTUCcollector.com and no reissues coming. Some customer service stock may be sold if there's any left, but don't count on it. But yeah, that's about it. We'll see each other next time, but until then, it's goodbye for now.